In today's video, we're once again going to be taking a look here at the simulated radar, going into the total precipitation, total snowfall, and even we're going to be talking about the temperatures as well as always. Now, let's go ahead and just get into things here, and as you can see, by the time we're even just reaching this afternoon and evening here, we do have two areas particularly that we're watching for some severe weather, one here in the middle of the nation, and then one actually here in eastern North Carolina and kind of south central Virginia. It does look like a bit of a very strong cell the models have been suggesting is going to develop and move kind of in a southeasterly direction here. Towards Edenton, Hertford area there in eastern, kind of like northeastern North Carolina there, from maybe Suffolk, Virginia area. So that is going to be pretty interesting. The models have been like very persistent with the exact location and very, very intense single cell there. So I'm very curious to see if they're going to be spot on with that or if they've just been off the mark, consistently off the mark. That is going to be a very interesting thing. I've never seen models so consistent about a single cell, but they certainly have been in this case. By the time we reach Wednesday here on May 10th, we do see a low developing here over Colorado and New Mexico, and this is going to lead towards a lot of rising here to the east with these thunderstorms. So that is going to certainly be something to watch, as this is really churning up some very intense storms as we watch this low move through. Also, we will see a diving motion here back to the west of this low, very typical stuff. So rising to the east, sinking to the west. That is a typical low pressure center. Now, things get very, very intense by the time we're reaching Thursday here, as you can see, over Kansas and Oklahoma. Very intense amounts of precipitation here for a lot of the northern plains, and then areas in the southern plains here as well, seeing very intense thunderstorms as well for a lot of these areas. Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Texas, Louisiana. Definitely going to be a very, very interesting situation as we see these very summertime-like thunderstorms taking place, basically stretching throughout all of these areas, which is going to be pretty consistent with where that rising motion is going to be with all of this. I don't know why sometimes it just deletes what I draw, but it did in that case. Now, as we reach in towards Friday the 12th here, we can see this storm is still very intense over Nebraska and South Dakota. I find it interesting how just yesterday and the day before, if you guys kind of tune in daily, this model was not showing things this intense at all. And now all of a sudden we have a pretty major looking low taking place. And again, this cold front corridor of everything right here would be certainly an area to watch for thunderstorms and even severe weather for multiple days. Then this corridor here looks like much more persistent rainfall, heavier showers for sure happening in there. By the time we're reaching Saturday, we see that low kind of dissipates there. We do see a pocket of stronger thunderstorms here. Still the remnants of what was the cold front as well, or the warm front better yet, and that could feature some thunderstorms in there as well. We can see there's plenty happening in between also, so very, very interesting stuff happening here. As again, this is kind of the theme yesterday, but we're reaching into that late spring, early summer pattern, which is going to bring a lot more humidity, a lot more thunderstorms, and we've really just been thrusted into this pattern. As you can see, I mean, you have to have an eye for it, obviously, but there is clearly a flow of very tropical thunderstorm and humidity happening here all the way from the Caribbean and just clearly tracking right up into the nation. So certainly that is also leading towards these kind of elevated thunderstorms. This is the third day in a row in eastern Virginia that we have a chance of thunderstorms. So for early May, that's actually pretty impressive historically here, usually in Virginia. And in general, along the East Coast, your peak of thunderstorm season actually doesn't happen until the summertime, whereas a lot of areas in the middle of the nation, it's more like April, May, where there's the heightened risk of bad thunderstorms, mostly severe weather. For eastern Virginia, in this case, it would be actually late June, early July, believe it or not. So that is kind of the difference. And that's because the ocean is so cold, it's actually keeping things kind of chilled out, no pun intended. But once we reach, June, July, that's when the ocean is above 70, and that really allows for things to just take off. It's not really holding things back as much. That's also, fun fact, why in the wintertime the East Coast sees a lot of mixing issues with snowstorms oftentimes. That's because the ocean is still very mild compared to the cold air over the areas. That's why usually on the East Coast, it's hard to get snowfall in November, December timeframe. It usually takes until January or February, whereas inland areas could see snowfall whenever it's cold enough, if that makes sense. The ocean has a lot of control over the East Coast. Now, as we reach towards Sunday, May 14th here, we can see a pocket of thunderstorms taking place in these areas here, kind of moving in from the northwest to the southeast. This has been a pretty common flow actually recently. And then we can also see this pocket of showers and thunderstorms taking place all the way from California and Nevada into the Four Corner states and back down into the south central. So we're seeing a lot of these areas see pretty stormy conditions as we roll through with this pattern. By the time we're reaching the early portion of next week, so this is going to be Monday the 15th, we see a weaker low developing here over the mid-Atlantic, and this is leading towards some showers up here with this more warm front corridor. But I am curious to see if we'll see a cold front develop underneath this perhaps and lead towards some more thunderstorm impacts in there. We do see again the scattered and thunderstorms and showers happening here again. Now by Tuesday, well actually Monday into Tuesday, we do see a cold front develop into this, so we could see some evening thunderstorms here for a lot of these areas in this corridor, because it does look like a cold front does develop. So we would be watching for that, as that would be pretty impactful. Now for the day on Tuesday, things look a little bit quieter. There is this pocket here where we do see a cold front kind of extending pretty far from this low up here in eastern Canada, which actually happens to be a pretty strong one, 996. So for early to mid-May, that actually is pretty intense. Still seeing some showers and thunderstorms over here in the southwest, the southeast as well. Certainly very, very interesting stuff. By the time we're reaching Wednesday, we could see some pretty stormy conditions along the east coast as we get this cold front reaching these areas. And we actually are left with a pretty big cool down to end things here. So what we're going to do is take a look here at the total precipitation first off. And as you can see, pretty high amounts here through the middle of the nation. Again, a pretty big theme here is going to be this tropical moisture moving in like this to a lot of these areas in the United States. But it's actually interesting to me, we see the most through the very, very middle of the nation here. And we get these kind of spurts of areas where we're getting these runoffs from the main area of storminess. And really, we're not seeing a whole lot out west either. So that gets basically just shut off. We see everything kind of coming from the south here for the central, and then sort of moving back down in some cases. And then we'll see a runoff occasionally from there. So that's why these areas get pockets of high amounts. But again, it's the center here that really takes the crown, the prize. There in this case. Now, the snowfall, as you can see, this is kind of creeping south here in eastern Canada. The reason being is we do see a cool down that does come in later on, and that is going to bring some snowfall opportunities here for eastern Canada. We do see some snowfall here as well for the west, the mountainous regions, but look at how reduced this is. We're seeing the Cascades and Sierra Nevadas, basically none. Northern Rockies really slowing down, and we're holding on for dear life to winter in this Southern Rockies corridor, where we do expect 1 to 2 feet there, as you can see in the pinks and pastel blues. But that is going to come to an end eventually as well. So unless there's some systems happening after that models start picking up on, we're going to see this drastically drop off once that is said and done. So we're going to be watching closely for that daily. Now the temperature pattern, we do see this very big warm up prevail in the east, especially as we approach the weekend. So Friday the 12th here. Saturday, Sunday, the 14th here. Something that we see take place though is we see it's cold out west here to begin things around the 10th tomorrow and the 11th. But look at how this warm moves in, right? This warm and even heat moves into the west here. That is a positive P&A developing, and that encourages cold into the east. So there is a lag, but that is what we're going to see here after this point. And we do see that cold prevails. And that positive P&A stays intact. Even we're reaching the 20th here, and we still see warmth, positive P&A again, like I mentioned. And we're seeing this cold prevail here for a lot of the northeast and the east of Canada especially. And look, all the way through the end of the model run here, the 24th, we're still seeing the cold winning out here. Now, this probably obviously won't be frigid, as we're almost to June by this point, but this would mean more mild, lower 70s, mid 70s, maybe upper 70s, but a lot more mild compared to what's typical. And by late May, a lot of these areas should be in the 80s by that point, but we're going to see cooler conditions, it appears. According to this European ensemble model, there is some cold starting to trickle back west, and that could mean the end of this back into a negative P&A, which would certainly send heat that we have not seen thus far this year into the eastern United States. But as of now, we're watching for cold in the east from the 15th at least till about the 20th and a little bit after. We're taking this with a grain of salt after the 20th, but as of now, this model does show it then as well. Anyway, be sure to subscribe for daily uploads, as we do upload it every single day, and we will update you guys on all of these things. Also, you can hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Also, be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I will see you guys in the next video.